Yeah, guys, we're just talking about the biblical flood, and like you can find this story of the biblical flood in like every different mythologies whatsoever, and you can draw an inference from them. Like there's certain truth to it because it's present in like almost every fucking mythology whatsoever. You can draw inferences and evidence for the biblical flood, and there are a lot of evidence like geological evidence of stones and shit. But let's take a look at this.
And the hope of a new world. You know this story. Every culture on Earth does. But here's the part no one told you. The oldest version of this tale doesn't come from the Bible. It doesn't even come from Mesopotamia. It comes from a place older than both. A place buried for thousands of years. Until now. And it might just hold the key to what the flood story is really about. Could this tale, remembered across the world, be more than a myth? Could it be a memory?
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. How does it's presented in like every fucking mythology? Like it was only exclusive to the Jewish myth. It's like presented in like every fucking mythology. The Sumerian, Mesopotamian, Indian, like every mythology has a flood story.
Welcome back, Darklings. The story begins before the world as we know it. God sends a great flood to cleanse the earth. Noah, a righteous man, is warned in advance. He builds a vessel, gathers his family, and 2 of every animal. The rain falls for 40 days and nights. The waters rise, and then silence. At last, the ark comes to rest on a mountain. A new world begins. It's one of the oldest, most sacred stories in the world, but here's the twist. It's not the oldest. Centuries before the Hebrew Bible was written, the same story was being told in ancient Mesopotamia. In what is now Iraq, around 1700 BC, a clay tablet told of a man named Ziusudra. Later, the Akkadians would call him Utnapishtim. He too was warned by the gods. He too built a boat. He too survived a flood that drowned the world. But this story refuses to stay in one land. In Greece, Deucalion and Pyrrha survive the wrath of Zeus, drifting in a chest as the earth disappears beneath the sea. In India, the god Vishnu, disguised as a fish, warns Manu and leads his boat to safety. Mesoamerican myth.
Well, I don't know about the Indian one. Like I know about the other one. And it's kind of crazy. Like every like Mesopotamian archaeology is always like covered up by the U.S. military bases. It's kind of suspicious.
Myths tell of rain that doesn't just fall. It devours the world in thunder and darkness, like in the Maya story of the third creation, drowned when humans angered the gods. In China,
Yeah, even the Aztecs and the Mayan had it. Like it's kind of crazy. This story is present in like every mythology.
legends speak of floods so vast that only divine emperors could tame the waters. Even in places untouched by empire, from Aboriginal Australia to the Andaman Islands, the tale endures, of water rising, of everything being lost, of one who is warned and who survives. Different names, different gods, but always the same story. Why? Why does the same myth rise again and again, in cultures oceans apart? Cultures that had never met? Could it be coincidence? Or is this a memory of something we were never meant to forget? Why do cultures from opposite sides of the world all tell the same story? How is that even possible? One answer is that they're remembering the same event, not 5,000 years ago, but 10. At the end of the last ice age, the world began to melt. Imagine standing at the edge of your village, watching the ocean.
I don't even think I believe in the Ice Age. Like there's not such a lot of conclusive evidence conclude believe in the Ice Age. Like who the fuck knows Ice Age actually happened? Like they're lying everything about history.
And climb ever closer towards you, year on year. Glaciers the size of continents collapsed, rivers swelled and reversed, oceans surged, and the Earth's coastlines, the places where our ancestors lived, fished, raised children, were swallowed by the sea. This wasn't a single flood, it was many, and they came in terrifying pulses. Scientists call them meltwater pulses, sudden sea level surges that rose as much as 30 feet in a human lifetime. In northern Europe, Doggerland, the land that once connected Britain to the continent, was consumed by the North Sea. In Southeast Asia, a landmass the size of India, Sundaland, disappeared beneath the waves. And in the Black Sea, sediment layers suggest a catastrophic flood, one so abrupt some believe it inspired the biblical account. But the evidence isn't just geological. The ruins of ancient cities tell the same story. At Shuruppak, Kish, and Ur, archaeological evidence shows thick flood layers abruptly ending civilizations. But these floods may have had an even older trigger. Around 12,800 years ago, the Earth plunged into a mysterious deep freeze, a mini ice age known as the Younger Dryas. But no one knows why it happened. One theory says something struck us. A comet or meteor crashing into the North
Yeah, that didn't happen.
American ice
Like
sheet.
there's no
The blast
proof
could have
of it.
vaporized miles of ice, sparked global wildfires, and triggered earthquakes, superfloods, and tsunamis on a cataclysmic scale. The kind of devastation you never forget, the kind that lives on in legend. Even Plato, writing in 360 BC, spoke of a mighty civilization drowned in a single day and night of catastrophe. He
Yeah,
called it
Plato in his book Timaeus wrote about Atlantis and how it was like uh, destroyed by a giant flood, and also due to the wickedness of people actually living there.
Atlantis. and while many dismiss it as
We'll talk about Atlantis in the next coming hours.
allegory, the date he gives, 9,000 years before his time, aligns uncannily with the final surge of Ice Age floods. Could Atlantis too be a fragment of the same shattered memory? Again and again, in place after place, the world drowns. This isn't just mythology. This is the moment humanity nearly disappeared. In every version of the flood myth, there's a warning, a dream, a voice, a god, or something like one, reaching out to a single chosen human, and always with the same instructions: build, gather, save what you can. But why must the world be destroyed at all? In the Atrahasis epic, humanity has become too noisy, disturbing the sleep of the gods. In the Book of Enoch, the world is corrupted by forbidden knowledge, gifts from the Watchers, fallen angels who descended to earth and taught secrets never meant for mortals. From their union with human women came the Nephilim,
Yeah, that seems like the most logical explanation.
giants who ravaged the world, devouring all
Like the Nephilim were enslaving the humankind, and everything was like turned into complete shit. Like there were sorceries, everyone got like superpowers, some shit like that. Black magic being rampant around. Like God didn't flood the world for no reason.
could, until the flood washed them away. Again and again, the myth blames us for our arrogance, for our cleverness, for crossing a line we were never meant to cross. So the world is cleansed, washed clean of corruption, and one man is told how to begin again, but what he's told to build is extraordinary. In Atrahasis, the Ark is a giant coracle, perfectly round. In Gilgamesh, Utnapishtim's Ark is described as a massive cube, and in Genesis, Noah's is a long rectangular chest. 3 different shapes, 3 different cultures, and yet, each story gives dimensions that result in a vessel with the same usable space, around 15,000 square cubits. Could that really be coincidence? In 2014, British curator Irving Finkel translated a Babylonian tablet that stunned the world, a flood account containing precise instructions for building the Ark, the wood, the pitch, the exact dimensions. He helped reconstruct it, and it floated. Not a ship exactly, but a survival capsule. Round, buoyant, built not to navigate the waters, but to endure them,
No way they actually reconstructed it.
to bob, drift, and survive the storm. But what comes next might be the strangest part of all. In some traditions, the Ark carries more than people and animals. In the Hindu tale of Manu, the god Vishnu, disguised as a fish, warns of the coming flood. Manu gathers not only survivors, but seeds of every plant and life form.
And that's the same similarities. Like you can see that they warn humankind at first, and some human actually make it out of it. It's like the same story.
In the ancient Zoroastrian texts, Yima build an underground Vara to preserve the best seeds of men, beasts, and plants before the world is wiped clean. And in some Mesopotamian accounts, the Ark carries tablets, records, knowledge, blueprints for rebuilding. Could the Ark have been more than just a boat? A vessel not for escape, but for preservation? A vault, a memory capsule, of language, knowledge, the very blueprints of a civilization. The Ark could have even been a library, a storehouse of wisdom, sealed and hidden from the flood, and perhaps even from the gods themselves. Some even wonder, could those seeds have meant more than grain, a symbolic way of preserving life itself, memory, DNA, the code of who we are? Today, we do exactly that. The Svalbard Global Seed Vault, buried deep within a mountain in Norway, is designed to survive.
But isn't this like the seed stories that Bill Gates is connected to? Like in case of some kind of a large apocalypse, Bill Gates will seek refuge in here for food source. Like God knows what the fucking Bill Gates is planning. Probably some evil shit. Like
Any disaster, from nuclear war to climate collapse. It holds backup copies of the world's crop diversity, preserving seeds.
yeah, in case of a nuclear war and apocalypse, Bill Gates chooses invested in something of this and to hide out in this place. It's kind of crazy what the elites actually planning. They also have like a big bunker in New Zealand. Like someone actually bought, the Silicon Valley tech giants. They actually bought like a bunker in New Zealand. It's kind of crazy what these guys are up to. Yeah, every fucking billionaire they had like to buy a shelter for apocalypse. It's kind of crazy. Like, what are they so afraid of? Like,
From gene banks across the globe. Could our ancestors have done the same 10,000 years ago? Every flood myth ends the same way, with a mountain. In the Islamic tradition, the Ark comes to rest on Mount Judi, a peak in what is now southeastern Turkey, close to ancient Mesopotamia, where some of the world's earlier civilizations would later rise. In the biblical tradition, the Ark settles upon Mount Ararat in eastern Turkey.
what are the elites so afraid of? They had to like constantly buy and build bunkers. Like, what are they so afraid of? Are they afraid of some kind of like a divine judgment? Definitely not like global warming are the things they actually say. Maybe possibly a nuclear warfare. Like,
High in its foothills lies a curious feature. At Durupinar, a boat-shaped depression stretches over 500 feet in length. Some believe it's the petrified outline of Noah's Ark, fossilized in stone. Others argue it's a natural formation, the result of landslides and erosion. No definitive proof has ever been found, but the idea endures. And 300 miles south lies a place even stranger, a hill that was not just visited after the flood, but perhaps built because of it. Göbekli Tepe, a name that means Potbelly Hill. For thousands of years, it was thought to be just that, a rounded rise on the Anatolian plain. But in 1994, excavations uncovered something astonishing beneath the soil. T-shaped stone pillars arranged in vast circular enclosures, carvings of animals, vultures, lions, snakes, wild boar, and abstract symbols whose meanings are still debated. Carbon dating suggests it was built around 9,600 BC, over 11,000 years ago, and yet the engineering is extraordinary. 20-ton stones, perfectly balanced, aligned
Yeah, a
with...
lot of these stones, like this one, what's his name? I'm butchering the name, like Gobekli Tepe, like something like that. And like there are different like Stonehenge. All these stone structures are arranged in a certain way that match the zodiac, and everything has a precise measurement of everything. Like it's definitely not some kind of like a medieval concoction. Like it has to be something with much superior technology, and we're seeing the remains of it. They're built using a superior technology, superior architects, and we're just seeing the remains of it, like thousands of years later.
astronomical points. Art and architecture, at a time when humans were still officially hunter-gatherers. Stranger still, the entire site was buried, intentionally, a vast megalithic structure, deliberately entombed thousands of years ago, and no one knows why. Could it be connected to the flood? Some think so. The timing is uncanny. 9,600 BC marks the end of the Younger Dryas, and intriguingly, it's the exact date Plato gives for the fall of Atlantis. Some of the animals carved here aren't native to the region, leading some to wonder, were they symbolic? A
Oh
memory of
yeah, Plato talks about Atlantis falling exactly 9,000 years before its time. Like it's kind of crazy.
animals taken aboard the Ark?
Do you believe that? Highly doubt it.
Others believe they are star charts, constellations encoded in stone. For example, one pillar, the so-called vulture stone, may depict the sky at the very moment the cataclysm struck. Not just myth, but a memory, carved in stone. Could it be that survivors of the cataclysm, those who remembered the flood, came here? Could they have brought with them not just memories, but knowledge, civilization? Could it be the place where the world began again? Göbekli Tepe isn't on a mountain, but it stands high above the plains, near the Euphrates, in the same region as Mount Judy. Some argue that's close enough to the biblical description. After the flood, the book of Genesis says, Noah built an altar to the Lord to sacrifice animals. Could Göbekli Tepe be that altar? Across the world, other whispers remain. In the Sahara, ancient rock art shows long boats sailing across what is now dry desert. In the Altai Mountains of Siberia, high in the steppe, images of oared vessels are carved into stone, far from any sea. In Bolivia, near Lake Titicaca, Andean legends speak of great floods that came before the sun was born, and ancient boats found where only dust remains. And in the Bahariya oasis of Egypt, fossilized fish lie buried in limestone hills, remnants of an ancient sea that vanished long ago. Could these be echoes of the same forgotten story? Not just a flood of water, but a world reset, a civilization washed away, and rebuilt on the mountain that remembers.
The reason why I don't believe in the. I'm not a young Earth creationist, but I also don't believe in the 4.5 billion years narrative. Like you have like the things like the great unconformity, like put holes in the narrative that the if you want to research about the great unconformity, like you have to Google it. Like there's a lot of like 1 billion years of geological records missing, and like things like that put a dent in this Earth's 4.5 billion theory. Like things don't match.
The idea of humanity being wiped out by a great flood is terrifying. But even more unsettling is the thought that it might not have been the first time, because the pattern doesn't stop with one flood. In Hopi tradition, the world has ended 4 times before, each age destroyed by fire, by ice, by water. Each time a few survived, to begin again. In Hindu cosmology, time moves through great cycles, the yugas, each one ending in darkness, each one beginning anew. The Maya believed the gods made 4 worlds before this one, each destroyed when humans failed to live in harmony. Some Aboriginal traditions speak of past worlds lit by different suns, each one ending in devastation until our current sun rose. Even Norse myth ends in flood, the sea swallowing the world after Ragnarok, before the earth rises once more from the deep.
It's crazy. Every mythology has a flood story.
Creation, destruction, renewal. The story repeats. Each time the gods reset the world, and one person is told how to begin again. But what if these weren't just stories? What if the flood myths are memories? Echoes of something...
Definitely not a story. And like the elites, the modern archaeologists, modern geologists, they always try to hide. They always like to downplay there's no flood. Like scientists and bros, like these guys are actually the worst. Like they always like to downplay this. There's no flood. It's like there's no massive global scale flood. But these flood stories are present like every mythology, even from the Oriental, Asian one to the Western one. Like it's kind of crazy.
that truly happened. And what if they endured, because they were meant to? Not bedtime tales, but warnings. Messages passed down, a voice from the deep past whispering, "This has happened before, and it will happen again." Are our ancestors trying to tell us something we've forgotten? that we are part of a cycle, one that always ends the same way. So where are we now?
I don't think we end in the same way, part of like a cycle or whatever, but like, maybe it's true. You know, the study Ouroboros. But like I'm telling, like everything elites do is hide everything that has to do with God, like invert everything that has to do with God, like rainbows were a thing to God as a sign that God won't flood the earth again, and now rainbows like used for this LGBTQ shit, like they're inverted and perverted every time. So that's all I had to say.
Have we already?
Yeah, let's look at the different narrations of the different flood myths.
If we dive into the mesmerizing mythological stories of India, we can find another flood myth. The Hindu flood myth, featuring the figure of Manu, is another intriguing parallel to the biblical story of Noah's Ark. This narrative, rooted in some of the most ancient texts in the world, texts like the Puranas and the Vedas, presents countless themes of divine foresight, human responsibility, and the cyclical nature of creation and destruction. The story begins with Manu performing his morning rituals. He discovers a small fish in the water, which begs for his protection. Manu saves the fish, which is an avatar of the god Vishnu, and in return, the fish warns him of an impending catastrophic flood. Manu is instructed to build a massive boat to survive the upcoming deluge. This element of divine warning and subsequent preparation closely mirrors the biblical narrative where Noah is warned by God and builds an ark. In both stories, the central characters are chosen for their virtues and are entrusted with preserving life. As predicted, a devastating flood engulfs the world. Manu, aboard his vessel, is tied to the horn of the fish, Vishnu, which guides him to safety. After the flood, Manu becomes responsible for creating a new world. He performs austerities and sacrifices, leading to the creation of a new human race. This aspect of renewal and repopulation parallels the biblical account where Noah and his family repopulate the earth post-flood. The story of Manu is deeply embedded in Hindu philosophy, illustrating the concepts of dharma, duty, karma, action, and the cyclical nature of the universe, creation, preservation, and destruction. Unlike the biblical narrative, which focuses on divine judgment and covenant, the Hindu myth places emphasis on the responsibilities of humans in maintaining cosmic order and harmony. Once again, we find a sophisticated ancient civilization that shares with the biblical flood story the themes of a world-engulfing deluge, the salvation of a chosen individual, and the genesis of a new era of humanity, underscoring universal concerns about creation, destruction, and moral responsibility. If we go across the planet to the Mayan civilization,
Tied to a ship, that would be like good ride.
we find another incredible flood
Like a
story.
fish tied to a ship, like it's kind of crazy. Like if you think about it, like, and these myths go like crazy sometimes.
Mayan civilization's flood myth, as narrated in the Popol Vuh, their sacred book, provides a captivating account that echoes many elements of the biblical flood story, while also displaying unique aspects reflective of Mayan beliefs and culture. The Popol Vuh recounts the story of a great flood sent by the gods as a means of destroying the wooden people, beings created by the gods who failed to worship them properly. In this narrative, the gods, disappointed with their creation, decide to start over, choosing a flood as the method of destruction. This aspect of divine punishment for failing to fulfill divine expectations parallels the biblical narrative where humanity's wickedness incurs God's wrath, leading to the flood. In both stories, the flood serves as a reset mechanism to cleanse the world and prepare for a new beginning. However, in the Mayan myth, the focus is more on the relationship between the creators and their creation, and the obligations of the latter towards the former. Unlike the story of Noah's Ark, where Noah and his family are chosen to survive and repopulate the earth, the Mayan narrative doesn't emphasize the survival of a righteous few. Instead, it focuses on the actions of the gods and the subsequent creation of a new, more satisfactory form of humans made from maize. The Popol Vuh offers insight into Mayan theology and cosmogony, where the creation and destruction of different types of beings
Didn't these guys were sacrificing like children on altars and shit? Like, these guys are fucking worse, bro. The savages.
are part of the gods' attempts to create a race capable of honoring them. The flood myth in the Popol Vuh is an essential component of this larger narrative of creation, destruction, and rebirth, reflecting the Mayan belief in the cyclical nature of life and the importance of a harmonious relationship between the divine and the human. The Mayan flood myth, while sharing the motif of a world-destroying flood with the biblical story, diverges in its emphasis on the relationship between creators and their creations, and the cycle of creation and destruction. It is a powerful testament to the Mayan understanding of the cosmos and their place within it, illustrating the rich tapestry of human mythology and the diverse ways in which different cultures have grappled with the concept of divine wrath, creation, and the role of humanity in the larger cosmic order. The Mayans are not the only American culture with a flood story.
People talk about colonization and shit, but Do you want to be part of this culture where they sacrifice like babies on every fucking Tuesday? Like it's kind of nobody want to be part of that culture.
The Aztec civilization, one of the most prominent pre-Columbian cultures in Mesoamerica, has its own version of a flood myth, which holds intriguing similarities and differences with the biblical flood story of Noah's Ark. In Aztec mythology, the flood story is part of a larger narrative about the cycles of creation and destruction of the world. According to their beliefs, the world had been created and destroyed 4 times before, and the flood story belongs to the narrative of the fourth world, known as Nahui Atl, or Four Water. The god Tlaloc, who was the deity of rain and earthly fertility, is central to the Aztec flood myth. In this story, the gods decide to end the fourth world with a great flood. The reason for this destruction varies in different accounts, but it is often attributed to the anger of the gods towards the misdeeds of humanity, or as part of the cyclical nature of creation and destruction in Aztec cosmology. In one version, a man named Tada and his wife Nana are forewarned about the impending flood by a god. In some accounts, this is the feathered serpent god Quetzalcoatl. They are instructed to build a large boat, or
Yo, Aztec lore goes crazy.
hollow a log to survive the flood. They bring with them various seeds and animals for the preservation of life. After the flood waters recede, Tada and Nana repopulate the earth, much like Noah and his family in the biblical account. In conclusion, while the Aztec flood myth shares fundamental elements with the biblical flood story, such as divine intervention, survival of a chosen few, and the subsequent renewal of life, it also offers a distinct perspective reflective of the Aztec cultural and spiritual worldview. In the northern parts of America, Native American cultures encompassing a wide range of tribes, each with their own rich traditions and beliefs, also have various flood myths that echo many elements of the biblical story of Noah's Ark, while also reflecting their unique spiritual and environmental perspectives. The flood myths across Native American tribes vary considerably, but they often share a theme of a great flood cleansing the earth. These stories typically involve a few survivors, either humans or animals, who repopulate and restore the world after the deluge. The causes and aftermath of the flood are depicted differently across tribes, reflecting the diversity of Native American cultural landscapes. In many Native American flood stories, the flood comes as a result of human misdeeds or a breakdown in the relationship between humans and the natural world. This aspect resonates with the biblical narrative, where the flood is a response to human wickedness. However, Native American stories also often emphasize the need for harmony with nature and respect for the spiritual world, concepts that are deeply ingrained in their cultures. Similar to Noah's survival in the Ark, many Native American flood myths include a character or a group that survives the flood, usually through divine intervention or guidance. This survival leads to a renewal of the earth and humanity, often with a renewed understanding of the importance of living in balance.
It's kind of crazy with all this rich history. Like scientism always denies anything like to do with spirituality or miracles. Like they have such history of divine miracles, a lot of things, spiritually rich history happening, and scientism denies every single one of them. Like it's kind of crazy.
With nature and the spiritual realm. These flood myths are integral to the oral traditions of Native American tribes and serve multiple purposes. They are not just tales of destruction and survival, but are also moral lessons about respecting nature and understanding humanity's place within the larger cosmos. They often explain the origins of geographical features, cultural practices, or social structures. Native American flood myths, while sharing the fundamental concept of a world-engulfing flood with the biblical narrative, offer a distinctive perspective that interweaves the natural, human, and spiritual realms. These stories highlight the diversity of interpretations of the flood myth across cultures,
And even
underscoring
the story of the continental drift, Pangea and all those things, that doesn't even make sense, bro. What causes the drift in the first place? Instead of like a, it was like a great flood of that magnitude, man, it makes sense, but a lot of these naturalistic explanations don't even make sense.
the universal human endeavor to find meaning and lessons in natural cataclysms and to maintain a harmonious relationship with the world. Leaving America and heading to Africa, we found that the African cultures, known for their rich oral traditions and diverse mythologies, encompass a variety of flood myths that, while distinct in their storytelling, share thematic elements with the biblical story of Noah's Ark. The African continent, with its vast array of cultures and languages, offers several interpretations of flood myths. From the Oromo people of Ethiopia to the Yoruba of Nigeria, flood narratives often serve as foundational myths that explain the origins of the earth, humanity, and societal structures. In many African flood myths, the deluge is a significant event that leads to either the destruction of a previous world or the creation of a new one. Similar to the biblical account, these stories often involve a chosen individual or family who survives the catastrophe, tasked with repopulating and rebuilding the world. The flood serves as a mechanism for cleansing, renewal, and the establishment of a new moral order. African flood myths commonly incorporate elements of divine judgment or intervention, where the flood is a response to human actions or a part of the divine plan. The survivors are typically portrayed as righteous or favored individuals, echoing the biblical Noah's righteousness and divine selection. In African cultures, these myths are more than just tales of survival and renewal. They often carry deep spiritual and moral significance. They are used to impart lessons about living in harmony with nature, respecting ancestral wisdom, and understanding the interplay between the human, natural, and spiritual worlds. Like the Africans, the Polynesian cultures, spanning a vast expanse of the Pacific Ocean with numerous islands and unique traditions, have their own versions of flood myths. These stories, while varied across the different island cultures, often share fundamental similarities with the biblical story of Noah's Ark and highlight unique aspects of Polynesian beliefs and environmental experiences. In Polynesian mythology, flood stories are not uncommon and are found in various forms across the region, from Hawaii to New Zealand. These narratives often involve a great deluge that reshapes the landscape and, in some versions, serves as a pivotal event in the creation or transformation of the world. Similar to the story of Noah and all the other flood stories we discussed, many Polynesian flood myths involve a cataclysmic flood that is survived by a select few, often with divine assistance or guidance. For instance, in Maori mythology, the hero Tawaki is said to climb to the heavens to ask for the deluge to cease, saving the world from complete destruction. In other tales, specific ancestors or demigods manage to survive the flood, ensuring the continuation of life and the human race. These flood myths reflect the Polynesians' deep connection with the sea and their understanding of the natural forces that shape their island environments. The stories often serve as explanations for natural phenomena, the origins of certain islands, or the ancestral lineage of tribes. While Polynesian flood myths vary in detail and emphasis, they commonly convey moral and spiritual lessons. These can include themes of respect for nature, the importance of harmony between humans and the gods, and the value of resilience and adaptability in the face of environmental challenges. Polynesian flood myths, embodying the essence of islander storytelling and belief systems, share the overarching theme of a great deluge with the biblical narrative. However, they are distinct in their focus on island geography, ancestral heroism, and the intricate relationship between humans and the natural world. These narratives not only offer insights into Polynesian culture and spirituality, but also contribute to the diverse global mosaic of flood myths, each reflecting the unique perspectives and experiences of their respective cultures. Venturing to China, their mythology...
At this point, you can even deny the flood, like, if it's present, like, every mythology, you can draw inference from them and conclude that the flood was actually real.
Of the Great Flood of Gunyu presents another unique narrative that, while differing in details, also shares thematic elements with the other flood stories around the world. This myth, deeply entrenched in Chinese cultural and historical consciousness, offers a perspective on leadership, human ingenuity, and the harmony between humanity and nature. The Great Flood of Gunyu is a legendary saga that spans generations, detailing the efforts of heroes, Gun and his son Yu, to control a devastating flood that lasts for decades. This narrative differs from the biblical account and other flood myths by focusing more on flood control efforts rather than a singular catastrophic event followed by rebirth. Initially, Gun, a minister in the court of the mythical Emperor Yao, attempts to stop the flooding using a patchwork of barriers, but his efforts fail. His son, Yu, takes over and adopts a different approach. Yu's strategy involves dredging, creating channels to divert floodwaters and ultimately leading to the taming of the waters. His success in flood control and land reclamation earns him legendary status and marks the beginning of the Xia dynasty. Unlike the biblical flood, which is an act of divine retribution, the Great Flood of Gunyu does not stem from divine punishment, but rather is seen as a natural disaster. The story emphasizes the virtues of wisdom, perseverance, and leadership. Yu's intelligent and methodical approach to solving the crisis is celebrated, symbolizing the importance of human effort and wisdom in overcoming great challenges. This myth holds a significant place in Chinese history and culture. It not only serves as a founding myth of Chinese civilization, but also illustrates the harmonious coexistence and struggle with nature, a recurring theme in Chinese philosophy and culture. The narrative underscores the Confucian ideals of wise leadership and moral rectitude, with Yu being portrayed as a model ruler who puts the welfare of the people and the harmony with nature above all else. In conclusion, the Great Flood of Gunyu, while distinct in its portrayal of a prolonged natural calamity and the emphasis on human ingenuity and leadership, shares with the biblical flood story and other global myths the theme of a great deluge. It highlights humanity's resilience and the capacity for innovation in the face of overwhelming natural disasters, reflecting a universal human experience of grappling with and overcoming nature's formidable challenges. In Europe,
It's a shame, like, we have no little history of the antediluvian period. We have little history. Maybe they're hiding it, but a little history of what happened before the flood.
the Greek myth of Deucalion and Pyrrha presents another interesting flood narrative. In Greek mythology, Deucalion was the son of Prometheus, the titan known for his foresight. Forewarned by his father about a forthcoming deluge intended by Zeus to cleanse the world of its corrupt and hubristic inhabitants, Deucalion builds a giant chest. Accompanied by his wife Pyrrha, Deucalion survives the catastrophic flood that ensues. The flood in this myth is initiated by Zeus, the king of the Greek gods, as a response to the moral degeneration of humanity. Here, once again, we find a narrative about a cataclysmic flood used as a divine tool for purging the earth of its corruption. Like Noah, Deucalion is portrayed as a righteous individual. His survival, along with his wife's, is a testament to their purity and moral integrity. Their willingness to heed divine warning and prepare accordingly underlines the virtues of obedience and respect for the divine, themes that are central to all cultures we mentioned. Post-flood, Deucalion and Pyrrha play a crucial role in repopulating the earth. At the behest of the Oracle of Themis, they throw stones over their shoulders, which miraculously transform into men and women, symbolizing the renewal of human life. This act of repopulation draws a parallel to Noah's role in re-establishing life on Earth after the floodwaters recede. The story of Deucalion and Pyrrha is deeply embedded in Greek culture, symbolizing the cyclical nature of life and the enduring human spirit in the face of divine or natural catastrophes. It reflects the Greek understanding of the gods as powerful, yet intimately involved in the affairs of humanity, a concept that shapes much of Greek mythology. Like the story of Noah, this myth underscores the potential for new beginnings and hope after a period of destruction and despair. The ancient Greeks are not the only Europeans with flood stories, though. The Norse mythology, rich in its pantheon of gods, giants, and cosmic events, presents its own version of a flood myth with the story of Bergelmir. This tale, though less known than some of its global counterparts, carries intriguing parallels to the biblical story of Noah's Ark, as well as distinct elements that highlight the unique aspects of Norse mythology. According to the ancient Norse beliefs, Bergelmir is a primeval being, a giant who becomes the progenitor of a new race of giants after surviving a great flood. This deluge, unlike many other flood myths, is not caused by divine retribution, but is a result of the cosmic conflict between the giants, Jotun, and the gods, Aesir. According to the myth, the blood of the slain giant Ymir, the forebear of all giants, floods the world, drowning all but Bergelmir and his wife. Bergelmir and his wife survive by seeking refuge in a hollowed-out tree trunk, floating on the vast waters until they can begin life anew. This element of a soul couple surviving a catastrophic flood is reminiscent of Noah and his family's survival in the biblical account. The story of Bergelmir is significant in Norse mythology as it explains the origins of the race of giants, a constant presence in Norse tales. This myth, set in the context of the broader narrative of the Norse cosmos, reflects the tumultuous and often violent interactions between different cosmic forces and beings. While the Norse flood myth shares the fundamental motif of a great deluge with the story of Noah's Ark, it diverges in its focus on the world of gods and giants rather than humanity. The story of Bergelmir underscores the Norse cultural emphasis on the interconnectedness of all cosmic entities and the ongoing cycle of creation, destruction, and renewal. It adds to the rich mosaic of global flood myths, each reflecting the unique spiritual, cultural, and environmental concerns of their respective civilizations. There are many more flood stories we won't be able to share in this video. For example, there are Finnish, Slavic, Japanese, and many other flood stories out there. The question is, what stands behind the origin of all these stories? The theory that a global flood really happened, and that this is the common origin for the myriad of flood stories found across different ancient civilizations, including the biblical flood, is a subject of considerable interest and debate. This theory posits that these flood myths are not merely coincidental or the product of independent cultural imaginations, but rather they stem from a collective memory of a real historical event that
There is no debate. Science bros are wrong. Like, there was a global flood.
significantly impacted human societies globally. From a scientific standpoint, proponents of the global flood theory often refer to geological evidence that suggests massive flood events in Earth's history. For instance, the end of the last ice age about 10,000 years ago saw significant glacial melting, leading to rising sea levels. This could have caused widespread flooding, especially in low-lying coastal areas where
Yeah, a lot of the own paradigms of scientific naturalistic explanation doesn't even make sense.
early human
You can
civilizations
see contradictions in them, like the great unconformity. Like, there's a lot of contradictions within their naturalistic scientific explanation.
were likely situated. Evidence of sudden and catastrophic
It's almost like they're trying to hide it.
flooding has been identified in various locations, such as the Black Sea Deluge hypothesis, which posits that a massive influx of water from the Mediterranean Sea into the Black Sea occurred around 7,600 years ago. In conclusion, the question of whether a singular great flood happened as a real event in human history remains a subject of considerable debate and speculation. The ubiquity of flood myths across diverse cultures on every continent is indeed striking and raises compelling questions about their origin. How is it possible that societies separated by vast oceans and uninfluenced by each other's mythologies have come up with such similar stories? Could this commonality point to a shared, ancient experience of a
100% there's a cataclysmic flood. And how did life exist on different lakes, ponds, and like different watery bodies? Even in ponds, how do lakes, like, how do like fish come in the first place? If you're using the naturalistic evolutionary perspective, like how do they even how did life exist on different water bodies in the first place? Unless like there was the giant deluge back in thousands of years ago. Like that would explain like different aquatic life on different water bodies.
Cataclysmic flood. These stories, from the Epic of Gilgamesh to the biblical account of Noah's Ark, and from Native American to Polynesian myths, despite their regional variations, share core elements of a massive deluge, divine intervention or anger, and the survival of a select few. As we ponder the origins of these flood myths, we must ask ourselves further questions. What does the presence of these myths tell us about human nature and our relationship with the natural world? How have these stories influenced our understanding of history, geography, and cultural development? And most intriguingly, if there was a great flood, what might have been its causes and consequences on the trajectory of human civilization?
Yeah, it's almost like they're hiding it. So like and subscribe. See you guys.